Being a Chicago White Sox fan is rough these days, especially at the ballpark. Let's see how bad it is next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you haven't already done so, and make sure to turn on those notifications. And if you haven't, please follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use a code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, I'm on vacation, but before I took off for my trip, I recorded a series of interviews diving into the Sox fandom world. And the final part of this series is with Chorizy-E and MySoxSummer of Fromthe108.com. Two of the three founders of a fan movement that turned them into a very successful blog site. And, you know, they're very well known around Guaranteed Rate Field and in the Sox fan world. Also, this was recorded before the 21-game losing streak took place. Well, it was recorded during it, but like not as we got close to the, potential record setting. And it was definitely recorded before the firing of Pedro Grifol. So if there are mentions of Grifol before his firing. All right, thanks for joining me, guys. And I just got to ask, I'll start with you, Chorizy, when I had talked to the guys. MySoxSummer, let's hear what they have to say. That's how I can refer to you guys, right? By your nicknames. There we go.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your aliases. How did the 108 come to be?
I'll let MySoxSummer answer that.
See, this is where I thought you would have taken right over, Chorizy. Way back in the day, I moved to Bridgeport in 2012, and I was underemployed and didn't have much going on. I was like, hey, I'm right by Sox Stadium. I am going to try to go to 50 games for under $500. And this was back in the day before there was a $7 ticket. It was like $15, I think, was the cheapest ticket. So I was like, I'm going to try to scalp. I'm going to do whatever. And during the course of that, I wrote 50 blogs to that was what MySoxSummer was. That's where it started. And so after that was over, I was become friends with Chorizy and Beef Loaf and had hung out with them many times. So I was more friendly. And then we just started hanging out after games, before games, and just doing a lot of drinking, a lot of BSing. And we just started like, hey, we could do this. We should write a blog. So we started writing a blog, and we just continue to go and just continue to increase things. After a few years, Josh Nelson from Sox Machine was like, hey, Chorizy, audio. Why are you guys not doing a podcast? So that was the next thing that we got into. Well, actually, we did the Sunday Soak first, and then we did the podcast. The Sunday Soak was we were like, we're too pretty just to be a podcast only thing. We need people to see all of us and just every single ounce of us from the waist up, because we're all married. And so it was like, well, just do this, and this will be our podcast. And then Nelson totally guilted Chorizy, and he's like, you know how to run audio, you start the podcast. And then that's where we became even bigger. Chorizy, you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was we would be at these games and we would see the craziest stuff you could believe, right? Like, think about bad teams that you've seen over the years, and there's only a handful of people in the crowd. So there's weird stuff going on. There's not the normal, oh, this is 30,000 people in a stadium watching a team compete for the playoffs. There's 6,000 people in a stadium on a Wednesday looking at a team that needs to rebuild, right? And so we're getting to that point, and we're starting to see crazy stuff. This is probably 2018. We saw a girl come running down with Trace Thompson's in right field, and she pulls up her shirt and yells out, "Trace Thompson, I love you." And it's like, that is not something a normal person sees on a Wednesday. And then I think it was 2000, this is probably 2016. This is probably right before we started the blog. 2015 maybe. And we're at a game and this guy walks in, he sits right in front of us, and he has like a grocery bag, like, you know, like the grocery bags, the reusable ones,
reusable grass.
and it is, it's like a magic trick full of food. He's pulling inning after inning, like a burrito, then a hamburger, then a bag of chips and whatever, and it's like we're paying attention to this guy purely from that standpoint. And the wave comes around. Now, we all don't like the wave. I don't want to do calisthenics during the game. I don't want to pay attention to like what I need to do. I want to watch the game. So we don't like the wave in general. And so we're sitting there like, the wave. This guy just starts flicking off the wave.
Yep.
And like, just like, he is not talking to us. He hasn't, we have not engaged with this person. He is just against it, and he's flicking it off. And MySoxSummer records it. Just throws it up on YouTube, just like, hey, this guy gets it. And that thing went off the rails. MySoxSummer, you could tell about that. And this is kind of the precursor to us going, we need to start documenting all of this. And that's where the blog really starts, is us just going like, we need to document being in the stands for the craziness that is being a Sox fan. It's because it's not like other fandoms. There's not a fandom like this. So we wanted to document it, and this was like one of the first things we did. And MSS, you could tell the story of this YouTube video and what happened.
Yeah, the video, I was still working downtown, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna upload this and put it on. I put it on Facebook first, and people were reacting to it crazily. So I was like, okay, this is good. So I took it and I put it on YouTube. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I had to make one. And then we got that going. And then I sent it to Deadspin. I sent it to, who else did I send it to? There's like other like sports of the day. I probably uploaded it to Fark. I don't know if a lot of people even know what Fark is, but like I probably uploaded it to Fark, and I was just putting it everywhere I could. I was like, I want some eyes on this. And it just blew up. And I was getting phone calls, and I was all this stuff. And I had to talk to people. I worked in advertising, and I was talking to somebody. I was like, what do I do here? And they're like, whatever you do, don't give up the rights to the video. And I'm like, it's 10 seconds. You know, like I don't even really, I can't sell advertising. I can't really do anything. And I finally got involved with I was at the game the following night, and I'm sitting in the stands, and somebody called me and was like, hey, this is so-and-so from Jukin Media. We want to like get your video. We want to license it. And I was like, okay, well, what does that entail? So they're like, well, we'll give you a profit share of it. You retain the rights, but we get a percentage of whatever we get for you. I was like, sounds like a great idea. And they got, I think it's 20-80. I'd say I get 80%, they get 20%. And I mean, this video, it was on Ridiculousness with Rob Dyrdek, you know, like with that one. And I didn't even know it was on there, because for a long time I didn't see any money. And then all of a sudden I got a check for like $5,000. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like they sold it to all these different shows, and Ridiculousness was one of them. But I was lucky enough, and this is how MySoxSummer is, you know, this is how I am. I don't pay attention. So I'm watching the show, and all of a sudden I just see my video up there, and I was like, yo, that's my video, you know? And so I record record it so we have it. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then, you know, I like later then I see that you know, they pay like $300 to use the video. So like that's where you get like your money, right? And then it was dead for a while, and then it bounced back a little bit, and I got another couple grand, and it's nice. This is pre 108. So like this is kind of at the point where we kind of look at each other and go like, we need to document this. Yeah. And that's when we start the blog. And the blog was a mix of baseball stuff. I mean, like I think one of the first articles was about Avi Garcia, but then we also started talking about like, you know, who are the most annoying fans that come to the park? Why do you drink MGD? Right. Why is MGD in with Miller Lite instead of having Miller High Life, which everybody else wants instead of MGD? Like all these types of articles start spinning up. And although we were competing against other blogs that, you know, are serious, in-depth blogs, we could compete in that range. We were doing those blogs, but we were also giving the fans something that was like, we're in the park. We know what you're looking at when you go to the park. Yeah. There's other stuff that happens there, and we're going to talk about that. And people reacted
really positively towards that. They wanted to know more about that. And then at the same time, they started to see us as, hey, these guys also know the game. And so it was a great synergy of like, we will tell you as much as we know about the game and what we think, what our opinions are there. But we're also going to tell you like, hey, there's a $8.25 24-ounce antihero that you could get at this stand. You should go get that. That's the cheapest deal in the stadium. So it's a combination of those two things. And it was like, these guys are in the park. They're paying attention. These are guys that we want to not only listen to for their Sox talk, but hang out with. And that was really the culmination of all of it.
I mean, that, first of all, when you say competing, do you look at it more as not competing? Because I think we can all play in the sandbox well. Like, again, I love to support you guys. When I write for Southside Showdown, when I tweet, like, I'm trying to be authentic. I hope you guys don't think I'm kissing butt there. Like, I'm trying to say, like, there's plenty of that. What's it like then to share the sandbox with all these other Sox content creators? Because there's a lot of great White Sox blogs out there.
Yeah, I think we do that quite well. We work with a lot of different blogs, and I mean, especially with our friends over at Sox Machine, we do a lot of work with them. I think there's a level of, we're all in this together, right? Like I will promote the other blogs. I love what they do. Like Jordan Lazowski writes a great blog. I'm going to retweet it, right? When he tells me something new that I didn't think about. All these guys, when they're doing good stuff, I'm going to promote it. I'm into it. But at the same time, there has to be a level of competition. We have to keep pushing each other to be better, so that it's not so much like who's going to come out on top of White Sox Twitter. That's not really a competition. We already did that. But the real thing is, like, we need to be better than the other fan bases. That should be our end goal. And I think the level of competition between the blogs and how much we get in depth, to the point where like the larger media groups can't get in that depth, right? They've got to talk about the Bears. They got to talk about the Blackhawks, the Bulls. Even in baseball, they got to talk about the Cubs in addition to the Sox at the same time. They can't get to the level that we get on these things. And so all of us need to push each other to become the best that we can at what we're doing. And I just love that competition. And I'll see something and I'll be like, I should have thought of that. I wish I could have thought of that. I want to do better the next time that this comes up. So while it is, I think it's communal. I think that we're very collegial with one another. I really always want to be the best, right? And I think all of us do that. Todd, I think when you do this show every day, which is insane to me that you do this kind of thing every day.
It's a lot.
You're looking at this going like, I need to bring something new. I need to be different. I need to be better, right? We all have to do that. Otherwise, it's just going to be all of us going, oh, Pedro stinks, right? Which yeah, we all know that. That's not entertaining at all, right? Like, but if you start to bring new stuff, you start to come up with better ideas. We push each other. I think that's something great about White Sox media in this form, is that it's not like all the other fan bases where they have a dedicated media team and all this stuff. We're on our own, man. We're on a pirate ship, and we're all battling in these multiple pirate ships. But at the end of the day, we're all rooting for the same team.
Yeah, it's the competition that exists with us and other blogs is I would say very minimal compared to the competition that exists between the three of us. I mean, it's definitely, anytime I miss a podcast, it's, oh, we just had the best podcast ever. And you're like, oh, great. Yeah, I wasn't there. And that's specifically done just to piss me off. So then the next time I come into the podcast, I'm going to be firing on all cylinders. So, I mean, it's weird. We do that to each other. We had a blog competition this year in Chorizy. I don't remember how many blogs we all wrote, but it was a lot. It was like 60, 90 blogs in like a month. I mean, it was ridiculous because we just were like, we're going to try to win our own money back. And that's just like what we do. But, you know, we also are like, I feel like the 108, when we first started the blogs and stuff, it was like, we're not going to break down the game. We're not going to tell you what all these other guys are doing. We're going to do something different, but also something that is entertaining to us. Like, I feel like we could write the same things, you know, you could say the same stuff over and over, but like, if it doesn't interest us, we're not going to do it. So that's why like the blog is kind of taking a back seat to a lot of the podcasts. Loaf's doing his own show, you know, Chorizy-E's doing his Star Wars stuff. Like, it's something you're interested in. So we're gonna move to that, as opposed to, you know, just regurgitate stuff, just to regurgitate it. Like, you don't need to know my opinion on Pedro Grifol. You know, like you need to know my opinion on why Pedro Grifol like doesn't eat a Twinkie, you know, or like why he can't identify one Fleetwood Mac song that he enjoys his favorite. You know, like that is more entertaining to me than, well, I still understand why he bats this guy 7th instead of 9th. You know, it's like, I don't care. Like it's such a minimal thing, and it probably doesn't even matter. You know, I don't know.
All right, sorry to interrupt. We just got to take a quick break, but more from the 108 guys is coming up next on Locked On White Sox. All right, so the only way I can get my daughter and my wife to go to a ball game is if I buy them that ice cream of the future they love so much, but sometimes they still get thirsty. Next time I'm going to suggest Liquid IV. When taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor, a surefire summer hit. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. I'm getting ready. You know, I'm in Florida right now. You best believe I packed some Liquid IV to stay hydrated. Blast off with the iconic summer flavor of Popsicle Firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon, lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using code MLB at liquidiv.com. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the Chicago White Sox start a 3-game road series tonight with the Houston Astros. First pitch tonight is at 7:10 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also, follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. So let's jump back into my conversation with the guys from the 108. Yeah, and for those that are listening are like, where's Beefloaf? He graciously bowed out because he didn't want to have too many talking heads going. I think we will get him on the show at some point. What is the vibe right now at the ballpark?
Bad.
It's very bad.
I mean, like, I think it has been to the point where like people are coming out for their like one game of summer, and so like they're picking and choosing which team they're going to come see, and so there's still some bodies in the seats. But I mean, tomorrow, we're recording this the 31st. Tomorrow, the Bears have their first preseason game. The trade deadline just passed. The attendance is going to be the guys in the Fromthe108 and like 12 other people for the rest of the season. So it's, I mean, like, I don't know what you could be excited about, right? Like, you could come out, like, people will come out for the Garrett Crochet starts. They'll come out for other teams that they're interested in watching. But other than that, the vibes are super bad. Like there's not a vision that we've been presented with of like, this is how we get back to being a competitive team. There's just been, we're going to cut and we're going to trade off what we can. I mean, like trading off Eloy Jimenez for what was that, Troy McClure or something they got back then, like
basically
you're in the position of like, we're just cutting salary. And we're gonna take this to the bottom, and then maybe we're gonna eventually get this back up to the top. So the vibes are terrible. People come to the park, people yell at the team, people don't want to, even like we get a lead, and people are on their phones on DraftKings going, I'm going to bet against this team right now because I know they're going to blow it.
Which has been a solid bet.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Solid.
It's bad in the park. As much as you see on Twitter, it's a lot like that in the park.
Yeah, I was at the last all 3 games here. Today I left when they still had a lead. So I didn't get to witness the 17th game in a row, but the other Monday night after they loaded the bases and Bobby Witt Jr.'s up and he just cranks that grand slam. I mean, half the section got up and left. I mean, the Sox have done something good though. They've shut down the upper deck. So now it looks like there's more people in the park. And I think they're probably going to continue to do that during the week. So don't buy lower level seats, just buy upper level seats, just sit downstairs anyway. So you got the Yankees, I think, coming next and the Cubs, or the Cubs, then the Yankees. Don't buy upper deck seats anymore. You sit downstairs.
If you really love baseball, it's a great park to go watch baseball at, and that's why we continue to do it. Like we love being in the park. We love watching baseball in the summer. It's something that we just truly enjoy and we want to do. But if you are just going to see the Sox compete, I can't tell you, yes, you should go do that. Like, because you're not going to see it. You're just not at this point. And so I get why people are like, I'm not going to the park to see this. We go in there, and if it's not a weekend with a bobblehead giveaway, we got the park to ourselves.
Pretty much.
Because they're giving you nothing to get excited about or to come to the park for.
So who came up with the one from the 108 tournament among the 3 of you, and why is it so awesome?
Yes, that's Beef. Beef came up with. So we do these yearly meetings, and I believe the one that we did for that one, we were at Beta Brow, which was one of our former sponsors, and we're sitting there just having some beers and stuff, and this is amongst, I'll say, 20 other ideas, and he's like, I want to do this tournament where it's just people on Twitter that are in White Sox Twitter. They're fun people. We want to promote them, and we'll pit them against each other, and they'll compete to be who's the best of White Sox Twitter. And me and MSS just kind of looked at each other, looked at Beef, and was like, that sounds like a lot of work, and it sounds dumb, but go ahead, go ahead, try it out. And it was, I think, the most condescending we could have been to him about it. And he went out and he did it the first year, and people immediately reacted. It was wild. Yeah. Like it was off the rails immediately. There was only, I think it was 8 people.
32.
No, I don't think it was 32.
He started with 32.
It was 8 or 16. It was a really small tournament. And like it went wild really fast.
Did go crazy.
And we couldn't believe it. And we're like, okay, well, next year let's make it like NCAA tournament size and see what happens, and we'll try and get these people in. And what ends up happening from this is, like, in any Twitterverse, right? Like in any kind of Twitter group that you have, there's pockets of people, right? There's just different groups of people within that Twitter group that follow each other. They pay attention to each other. They don't really pay attention to outside of that little circle. Twitter circles is a good example of that. But like
when it existed,
when it was around. But what ended up happening was we'd have someone come in, they would put some content up, and it would get to all these other people who were in the circle of the person they were competing with, and people would start to give a follow, and then there'd be a follow back. And then, so what happened was, exponentially, the Twitter group that was White Sox Twitter just started to like rapidly expand to the point where, like, 2 years in, we're like, we're going to do 108 people in the tournament. And there were 30 people that were like, what the heck? Why am I not in this?
Right. Yep.
You know, going from like this really small group of people where it was like, hey, it was like, hey, we got these people, and everybody was kind of like, okay, you've got all these people. I know like 6 of these people, to the point where it's like, okay, we've got 108 people. Everybody knows everybody. And there's still like, we're getting messages like, hey, why didn't you put so-and-so in? Why didn't you put this person in? And that's just how quickly it grew. And I think it's a testament to Beef and to his idea, and to why White Sox Twitter is as strong as it is right now.
Yeah,
and
even it was a terrible team.
Yeah, he evolves it too. Like, it does it constantly. It's not the same thing over and over. Like, he introduced like we started out, we had a women's bracket, and the women got mad, and they're like, why is there a women's bracket? We can beat the guys, and they can, and they have. But like, then last year, people are like, why isn't there just a women's bracket? And you're like, I don't know, and then
we had one.
Yeah, we did it, and people didn't like it. And then he has the 500 under followers, or 1,000 under followers. Like, that's just his warped, goofy mind, big head, warped mind, loaf. This is how we can continue to get people interested in it. And yes, Chorizy and I were blind to how good of an idea this was. And we didn't know that people were really, really that's like centered. They're like, I want to be number one. And there was no prize. There still is no prize. Like, you don't win anything. And people just go bananas for it. And then, like, after we started hitting numbers on some of these polls, we're like, dude, we can get the sponsorship on this. We can sell this to advertisers. And it worked. And so much so that when 2020 happened and all the sports dropped out, the only thing in town was the 108 tournament. Loaf's on the score talking with Herb Lawrence, and I don't know who else he was with, but they were talking this fake tournament that he made up and that we helped facilitate. And it's just, they're like, man, who do you think's gonna win? And it's like, this is all we can talk about, and it's great. I don't know. It's a fun year. It's a very stressful 3 weeks, and it's a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, but it's definitely worth it, and people love it. So yeah, we were totally wrong. Loaf is totally right. He's the genius, and he will tell you when he comes on this show by himself, because he can't be with the both of us, because we'll take away some of his shine. How big of a genius he is, and how great of an idea that was, and how dumb we were. He will say that.
Again, sorry to interrupt. We got to take a quick break, but more will be coming up with my conversation from the 108 guys next on Locked On White Sox. Hey, PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. And if you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. I always tell you about my buddy on the text chain. He lives behind the cheddar curtain, but he loves that PrizePicks is available to him to get his selections in. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. The White Sox start a 3-game road series tonight with the Houston Astros. First pitch is at 7:10 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter. Hopefully you have enjoyed this fan series. This is the final installment. I have been on vacation. I've been probably sweating a lot at Disney World. And again, shout out to all my everydayers. Hopefully, again, you guys in particular, the diehards of the diehards, are really enjoying what I've covered the last 6 days. So let's jump back into my conversation with the guys from the 108. All right. So I'll say, though, I never sent you a direct message to say I should have been from the 108. Trust me, I've got I've gone to the transfer portal. I'm scheduling better. I'm going to schedule harder. I've upped my NIL game. Hopefully I can get a 12 seed. That's all I care about, that type of stuff. And if I don't get in, I will still support. It's fine. How cool was it for you guys to be in that promo last year for, I think it was the quarter zips? And why aren't the Sox using you more? Like, honestly, why aren't they using you more?
It was the full zip track jacket.
That is what it was.
And the hilarious thing about that whole thing is we're very friendly with Mike Downey, who's in the front office, who does game day. stuff. Like he's a game day guy. Like he is the one that makes sure the bobbleheads are there. He helps select the promo items and all this stuff. And the guys that shoot the commercial, they're like, hey, you know these guys. And he's like, I do. He's like, we have this idea that maybe they can do this commercial. And we're like, absolutely, let's do it. And so he's like, I'll contact them and see if they're in. He texts me and I'm like, we're in, but I'm going to ask the other guys if they're in because we're going to do this. I don't care what they say. And they scheduled it and then they rescheduled it and it was going. We're like, this is probably not going to happen. We released the koozie with our 108 guy with the bag on his head and on the back that says, wake us for the parade. And we're like, now they're really never going to put us in anything. And they're like, hey, we're filming on this day at this time, come over. And so we go over there and we're just like, all right. And they're like, this is what we want you to do. It's a Sopranos theme. And I'm like, perfect. They're like, perfect. And everyone loves the Sopranos. They make me walk across the street 97 times, which is like the quickest part of the commercial, but took the longest to shoot. I did not get hit by a car, even though Chorizy wanted me to get hit by a car because he thought it was going to be really funny. I do all this working, walking, all this. And Chorizy steals the show at the end in a throwaway scene when we're on location shooting. The guy's like, hey, take this car shade and act like you're sunning yourself. That's what we're going to do. And that part of there was just like a throwaway. Maybe we'll use it. Maybe we won't. He does it. It is the end of the commercial. And that's all anyone ever remembers. They just remember that.
I got the Polly Walnut's hair. So it worked out.
It worked great.
That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember too, like I'm working that day. So I'm like, okay, I could come down, but like I'm in the middle of some stuff. Like I'll just quickly do these shots and whatever. So there's a point where they're in between stuff and I'm looking at like work stuff on my phone and I forget if it was MSS or Beef takes a picture of me. And I just I'm like in the chair in front of Kathy D's with the windbreaker on and all this. And I just like look up with like kind of this angry look. Like, hey, I'm trying to do some work here, and they take a picture of me, and that picture is one that like has continued to be
beautiful.
Meme. Like it's just like it's those kind of moments that I think when you document the entirety of your fandom and the entirety of like you being out in the wild, those things happen, and like it's a very stupid moment because I'm just like looking at a work email, but it becomes this kind of thing that we retweet probably a few times a week because it's a ridiculous picture.
Can you tell your story today? What happened today?
So today I'm at work. We've got a bunch of people in from around the country, and this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm a Chicago sports fan. I don't live here anymore. I'm watching a Sox game last year. Are you in a Sox commercial?" And I was like, yes, I am. And I'm like, I don't want to explain why I'm in it to someone that I work with, but I'm just gonna, yes, that was definitely me. But let's leave it at that. I gotta go home. See you later.
Is that like one of the things that you guys use? Like if you're ever at one of those like, work functions where you got to introduce yourself, where you're like, in your regular life, and then you're like, yeah, and I also run this very famous within the White Sox fan community blog and all this stuff, and I've been in a commercial, and people know me, and I'm kind of a big deal within the White Sox. Like, do you go around kind of bragging about that?
I feel like
is that a secret identity?
At work, I don't. At work, it's not like it's maybe not the best thing to be like, hey, if you want to come watch me drink on a Thursday night and then meet with me on Friday morning, this is what was going on the night before. I don't really promote it. I think Beef maybe promotes it a little more at work than I do, but it is something that like when I'm talking to somebody who is a Sox fan, it's obviously something that I'm going to put top of the list. Like if I'm meeting someone new and they're talking about it, I'm definitely going to say like, yeah, I do this White Sox thing. I don't know if you've heard of it, but like, check it out. We're always trying to promote ourselves in the wild. That's the only way you can grow things. And that's part of the beauty of being season ticket holders and being in the park all the time is like, that's that's grounds for us to just kind of meet new people that are huge Sox fans, especially this season, right? Like if you're in the park this year, you're a Sox fan.
Yes.
You bleed Sox, right? Like so that's a great opportunity for us to just go like, hey, yeah, we do this thing. We're in Kansas City just recently. You're running the Sox fans in the concourse. They have no idea who we are, but I'm going to let them know who we are.
Yes.
Right. Like, so more so in that case than at work. I think work, I kind of keep it a little low key that like I don't think this is for everybody.
All right. I want to talk about you guys' actually most recent viral moment before we go. Whose idea was it to bring up the cicadas and the Malort at the Fromthe108 tailgate in Milwaukee? And did you really ever think that they would actually go? Because didn't John Boy get on that? And
Oh yeah.
So none of us thought to bring them up. So our friend Tina, she went to Noon Whistle Brewery and they were doing the shots of Malort with the cicada in it, and she had one, and she was like, "I'd like to do this myself. How did you guys do this?" And they were more than happy to tell her. I don't know how you're supposed to cook them. I'm not going to give that here because I don't want to get anyone sick. But she went home and did it, and we had the Milwaukee tailgate. So we do a couple road trips a year, us with Sox Machine, and we went up to Milwaukee. We had a huge tailgate. It was awesome. We had Pilot Project Brewing give us a bunch of beer, but then as much beer as you bring, people are going to still want to do shots. And so Tina brought up a bunch of Malort, and she brought them filled with cicadas, and she started pouring them out, and we're not going to abstain from these, right? Like, so I saw that Beef and someone else were going to take the shot. And when you say, did you think it was going to go viral? Yes, I absolutely thought it was going to go viral. So I was like, I am filming this because this is going to be ridiculous. And I immediately put it up on YouTube. And then I put it up on Twitter. I put it up on Instagram. And throughout the game, we're hanging out at the game and we're having some drinks and stuff. And I keep looking at YouTube and it's like 12 views, 46 views. And I'm like, oh man, this was way more of a dud than I thought. So I just kind of stopped looking, and YouTube never got any numbers on this. And then we're driving back to Chicago the next day. And my wife's like, do you know this Wu-Tang is for the children account? I was like, oh yeah, I love that account. That's what's going on. What did they? She's like, they posted your video of Beef doing this cicada Malort
and chewing it.
Like when I got home, this is like noon the next day or whatever it was. I looked and there's like 2.6 million views on this video, and I was like, okay, I was right, but on the wrong platform.
Yeah, and we also had the bums at that tailgate who are the tailgating masters. Like they cooked all the food and did all that stuff so that we can go around and actually have a good time. We're not very good at hosting tailgates. We're very good at being the entertainment at tailgates, and Tina helped us with that with the Malort. So that was awesome.
I should have mentioned the bums because the bums took care of a lot of that day.
A lot,
which allowed us to be insane and go do these types of things.
And Todd, if you haven't been to one of their whiskeys at Comiskey, I mean, I think there's one more in September. It is a fabulous time. You can have a great time there. They have top shelf liquor and really good food. So, and it's good. And then Sheriffin will show up. So if you like John Sheriffin, that's a plus. If you don't like him, it's a negative, but that's okay.
I'm neutral to Shriffin. I'll just say that. And yeah, I've had the fear of missing out. And I did want to meet up with you guys. I think I had something going on though with my daughter that I couldn't make it to the game because I live like 5 exits away from American Family Field. So
okay,
that's why if you guys ever come back up and you need to use the bathroom, you can obviously stop in and use the bathroom.
Nice. Don't let Mailman Jack in though. That guy destroys bathrooms. Can't let him do that.
So I actually, before we go, I do actually want to, because we've been talking about White Sox Twitter, and some people that probably listen to the pod might be like, who cares about Twitter anymore? It's dying. It's not that great. But White Sox Twitter actually matters amongst this fan base. Don't you guys agree? And how would you describe it to somebody that may have already left Twitter or isn't really social media savvy?
I feel like it's like Motley Crue. You got a lot of different dudes and a lot of different people that serve different roles. And like today, I'm at the game. You got Gas Money Bob there, who was a big deal back in the day with Big Cat on Barstool, doing a lot of Chicago Bears stuff. Run into Ken W.O., who's there, and he is infamous in his own right, with SB Nation, right? With SB Nation and Southside Sox. And then, like, you have the new guys. You have us. You got Bruhan Luke just hanging out. There's just a bunch of different people. But Twitter, people want to trash Twitter, X, like crazy. But every time I go on Facebook, it's links to Twitter's things. It's screenshots of Twitter's or tweets. You go to Reddit, who are the biggest bunch of, this would be the part what I would swear, Todd. And I can't swear right now because I don't like the Reddit people. But like, they're like, Twitter, those Twitter guys, blah, blah, blah. But every dang like thread is so-and-so tweeted this. And it's like, bro, come on, and then like we were, when we were coming up, we were trying to promote our blog and tweeting links, and they're like, oh, that's not how Reddit works. You don't have to do that. Every tweet now or every thread now, a link to another blog, to CHGO, to you guys, whatever. It's all over the place. And it's like, come on. Yeah. Twitter is where it happens. That's where it is the fastest news source for baseball, especially for White Sox stuff. The hate is undeserved. It is fun. It is crazy. It's a cesspool, as we've been called. It's fine. But yeah, I love all the people on Twitter, even the bad people.
And that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll be back on Monday with a Minor League Monday report like I usually always do. Feel free to leave comments about today's conversation with the Fromthe108 guys. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dub or at Locked On Sox. Email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. Talk to you Monday.